Major Hejun Kim stood tall in his crisp blue uniform before the Galactic Council. The large meeting room was filled with representatives from over 30 alien species. The walls glowed with a soft blue light, and the air felt cool against his skin. He held a datapad in his hands, waiting for the right moment to speak. Next on our agenda, Administrator Du-Rin announced, her silver scales shimmering under the lights, Earth's request to join the Youth Competition Division. She looked down at Hejun from her raised platform. Major Kim, you may present your case. Hejun stepped forward and bowed slightly. Thank you, Administrator. Earth would like to enter 3 participants in the Under-20 division of the Galactic Youth Competition. The room burst into worried whispers. A tall blue-skinned delegate stood up quickly. Under-20. But those are children. This is outrageous. Hejun remained calm. He had expected this reaction. On Earth, we begin training our young ones early. They are very capable. Capable. Another delegate with 4 arms crossed all of them. The youth competition includes combat simulations, tactical challenges, and survival tests. We cannot allow children to participate. It would be dangerous. Administrator Du-Rin raised her hand for silence. Major Kim, most species wait until their young reach early adulthood, around age 25 in human years, before beginning any kind of tactical or combat training. What you suggest goes against common practice. Hejun smiled, remembering his own childhood. Administrator, may I show you something? He pressed a button on his datapad, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. The hologram showed children on Earth playing Capture the Flag. They moved with purpose, working in teams, planning strategies, and adapting to changes. Another scene showed young ones in a martial arts class, learning discipline and control. Then came images of team sports, obstacle courses, and strategy games. These are Earth children at play, Hejun explained. What you see as dangerous training, we see as natural development. Through games and sports, our children learn teamwork, strategy, and physical skills. By age 17, many have over a decade of experience in these areas. The room fell silent as the delegates watched. Some leaned forward with interest, while others looked worried. But they are so young, Du-Rin said softly. How can you be sure they are ready? Because we don't throw them into danger unprepared, Hejun responded. Every skill is taught carefully, building from simple games to more complex challenges. Our team has trained for years. They understand safety, strategy, and most importantly, how to work together. A delegate with feathers raised a wing. And their parents agree to this. Hejun nodded. On Earth, most parents encourage their children to join sports teams or take martial arts classes. It builds confidence, discipline, and capability. Our candidates were chosen from thousands of volunteers, all with full family support. Administrator Du-Rin was quiet for a long moment. Her scales shifted colors as she thought. Finally, she spoke. This is highly unusual, Major Kim. But Earth has proven itself a valuable member of the galactic community. If you can provide proof of safety measures and parental consent, we will consider your request. Hejun bowed again. Thank you, Administrator. I have all the required documents here. He sent the files to her screen. I would also like to invite any interested delegates to watch our team train. You will see that they are more than ready for this challenge. As the meeting moved to the next topic, Hejun noticed many delegates still watching the hologram of Earth children at play. He smiled to himself, knowing that soon they would understand why humans started training young. It wasn't about creating soldiers or warriors. It was about helping children grow into capable, confident individuals who could handle any challenge life threw at them. He thought about his team, Yi Jin, Jai Ho, and Taiwan, probably training right now in the Earth Station. They would show the galaxy what human youth could do, not through force or aggression, but through skill, teamwork, and the pure joy of rising to a challenge. Lee Jin Park looked out the window of the transport ship as it approached the galactic competition station. The massive structure floated in space like a silver wheel, its outer ring spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. At 17, she had dreamed of this moment since she first learned about the competition 3 years ago. "Look at the size of it," Jai-Ho Lee whispered beside her. He was the oldest of their team at 18, and his eyes were wide with wonder. "It's bigger than all the pictures showed." Behind them, 16-year-old Taiwan Song was checking their equipment bags for the 10th time. "Remember what Major Kim said. We're not just representing Earth. We're proving a point." The transport ship docked smoothly at the station. As the doors opened, Yi Jin took a deep breath. The station's air smelled clean and slightly metallic. A tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms waited to greet them. "Welcome to the Galactic Youth Competition Station," the alien said in perfect universal standard. "I am Guide Korra. I must say, we were surprised to receive such young contestants." Yi Jin stepped forward and bowed politely. "Thank you for having us. We may be young by galactic standards, but we are well prepared." Korra led them through bright corridors to the contestant area. Other teams were already there. Yi Jin noticed immediately that all the other competitors looked much older. They moved with the awkwardness of those new to their training. A group of crystalline beings turned to stare at the human team. One of them stepped forward, their form shifting colors in what seemed to be concern. "Are you lost, small ones? The visitor area is on the lower level." "They are contestants," Korra explained. "From Earth." The crystal being's colors shifted to deep purple in surprise. "But they are children. I am Su-min, and by your measurements, I am 25 years old. We were told this was the junior division." "It is," Jai-Ho said with a friendly smile. "On Earth, we start learning young. I began training when I was 5. 5. Another alien, this one covered in soft fur, joined the conversation. "What kind of training could a 5-year-old do?" Taiwan pulled out his tablet. "Would you like to see? I have videos from my first year of training." The aliens gathered around as Taiwan showed them footage of kindergarten sports day. Children ran obstacle courses, played team games, and solved puzzle challenges together. More competitors drifted over to watch. "But these are games," Su-min said, confused. "How does this prepare you for tactical challenges?" Yi Jin smiled. "Every game teaches something. Capture the flag teaches strategy and teamwork. Hide and seek teaches stealth and observation. Obstacle courses build strength and agility. We learn by playing." "That's quite clever," Korra admitted. "Teaching through play instead of formal training." Just then, the station's speakers announced the first orientation session. As they walked to the main hall, Yi Jin noticed the other competitors looking at her team differently. Not with pity or concern anymore, but with curiosity. In the main hall, Administrator Du-Rin stood on a raised platform. Her scales shifted to a formal gold color as she addressed the gathering. "Welcome, young competitors. This year's competition is historic as we welcome our first human team." All eyes turned to Yi Jin, Jai-Ho, and Taiwan. Administrator Du-Rin continued. "Some have expressed concern about their age, but I remind everyone that different species develop at different rates. Let us keep our minds open to new ways of learning and growing." Yi Jin sat straight and proud. Tomorrow, the real challenges would begin. Her team would show the galaxy that humans didn't just start young. They started smart. Years of playing, learning, and growing together had prepared them for this moment. They were ready to prove that sometimes the best training didn't look like training at all. The simulation chamber was a large, empty room with white walls. Administrator Du-Rin stood on an observation platform above, her scales now a neutral silver. Below, 6 teams waited for the first trial to begin. "The challenge is simple," Du-Rin announced. "Each team must work together to reach the goal point. The simulation will create obstacles and problems you must solve. Remember, this is not just about speed. It tests your thinking, teamwork, and ability to adapt. Yi Jin looked at Jai-ho and Taiwan. They stood ready, wearing the blue uniforms of Earth. Around them, the other teams shifted nervously. Su-min's crystal form flickered with uncertain colors. The white walls suddenly changed. The teams found themselves in what looked like a deep forest. Tall trees stretched up into darkness. Strange sounds came from all directions. A glowing marker in the distance showed the goal. "Begin," Du Rin's voice announced. Most teams started walking straight toward the goal, but Yi Jin's team stayed still. Taiwan pulled out a small device and started scanning the area. "Just like capture the flag at night," Jai-ho said quietly. "Taiwan, what do you see?" "3 safe paths," Taiwan replied. "But 2 are longer. The short path has more risks." Yi Jin watched the other teams. Some had already run into trouble. One group walked into what looked like quicksand. Another team scattered when strange creatures appeared. "Remember the summer camp exercise?" Yi Jin asked her teammates. "When we had to cross the lake at night?" Jai-ho nodded. "Short path, but we take turns. One watches high, one watches low, one moves forward." They moved as a unit. Ji-ho watched the trees above. Taiwan scanned the ground ahead, and Yi Jin kept their direction true. When obstacles appeared, they handled them like they had done this hundreds of times, because they had. In the observation room, Administrator Du Rin watched with growing interest. Major Hejun Kim stood beside her. "Notice how they move," Hejun said. "This is not new to them. Every summer camp, every game of hide and seek in the dark, every team sport, it all prepared them for this." Below, Yi Jin's team reached a wide gap in their path. Other teams were stuck at similar obstacles, trying to figure out what to do. But the Earth team didn't hesitate. "Remember the playground," Taiwan said, pulling out a light rope from his pack. "The gap between the big slide and the climbing frame." Jai-ho grinned. "I was the champion of that jump." They worked together smoothly. Taiwan secured the rope. Jai-ho made the jump to secure the other end, and Yi Jin coordinated their crossing. It looked almost like a dance, each person knowing exactly what to do. "Remarkable," Du Rin said softly. "They are not just completing the challenge. They are working together like a natural unit." Su-min's team watched the humans work. Their crystal forms glowed with admiration. "They make it look so easy," Su-min said to their teammates, "like they're just playing a game." The Earth team reached the goal first, but they didn't celebrate. Instead, they turned back to look at the other teams. Yi Jin stepped forward. "Would anyone like help?" she called out. "We can show you some tricks we learned from playing in the woods back home." In the observation room, Du Rin's scales shifted to a bright gold color of approval. "They don't just know how to complete the challenge," she said to Hejun. "They know how to help others learn." Hejun nodded proudly. "That's also something they learned young. On Earth, the best players are the ones who help others improve. It's part of the game." As the simulation continued, the human team moved from group to group, sharing their knowledge. They showed others how to spot safe paths, how to work together, how to turn obstacles into advantages, just like older children on a playground, teaching younger ones how to play a new game. The first trial ended with every team reaching the goal. And in the process, they all learned something about why humans start training young, because the best lessons often look like play. After the first trial, the competitors gathered in the station's recreation area. The room had comfortable seating areas and large windows that looked out into space. The Earth team sat with Su-min and several other alien competitors, sharing refreshments and stories. "I still do not understand," Su-min said, their crystalline form glowing with curiosity. "You say you learned these skills through play. Please explain this to me." Taiwan activated his data tablet and showed them a memory from his childhood. The hologram displayed a group of young children playing in a schoolyard. "This was my first year of school," he explained. I was 5 years old. Watch what happens during our free play time. In the hologram, Yum Ta-won and his friends were playing a simple game. They had divided into teams and were trying to protect their bases while capturing flags from other teams. We call this game Capture the Flag, Ta-won said. Look at how we learned to plan, to work together, to think ahead. We didn't know it then, but we were learning strategy and tactics. The alien competitors watched with growing interest. A furry competitor named Rocky pointed at the hologram. The small ones are making hand signals and moving in patterns. Jai-ho nodded. Yes, we learned to communicate silently and coordinate our movements. Later, these same skills helped us in more complex challenges. Yi-jin showed another memory. This time, it was a martial arts class for children. Here, we learned discipline and control. But more importantly, we learned how to fall safely, how to understand our own bodies, and how to respect both ourselves and others. But were you not afraid? Asked a competitor with scales similar to Administrator Du-rin's. These activities seemed dangerous for young ones. Our teachers started us slowly, Yi-jin explained. First, we learned to fall on soft mats. We played games that taught balance and awareness. Everything built upon what came before. The hologram changed again, showing children solving puzzle challenges together, building structures, and playing strategy games. Sumin's crystal form shifted colors in understanding. I see now, Sumin said. You did not start with complex training. You started with games that taught basic skills. Each game built upon the last. Exactly, Jai-ho agreed. Think about the forest simulation we just completed. When we crossed that gap, we used skills we learned playing on playground equipment. When we navigated in the dark, we used skills from night games at summer camp. Administrator Du-rin had been quietly observing the conversation. She stepped forward, her scales showing a color of deep thought. This is quite different from how most species approach training. We wait until our young ones reach maturity before teaching them such skills. But why wait? Ta-won asked respectfully. Children naturally want to learn through play. They want to explore, to challenge themselves, to work together. We simply guide that natural desire in productive ways. The recreation area grew quiet as everyone considered this. The hologram continued to play, showing scenes of Earth children learning, playing, and growing together. Perhaps, Administrator Du-rin said slowly, there is wisdom in the human approach. Learning through play removes the fear of failure. It makes complex skills feel natural and enjoyable. As they watched more memories of Earth's children at play, the alien competitors began to understand. Humans didn't start training young because they were eager for war or conflict. They started young because that was when learning came most naturally, when skills could become second nature, and when the joy of achievement was pure and uncomplicated. The galaxy was beginning to learn an important lesson. Sometimes the best preparation for life's challenges didn't look like preparation at all. The station's warning sirens began without warning. Red lights flashed through every corridor, and the artificial gravity wavered. Administrator Du-rin's scales turned pale with alarm as she read the emergency reports on her screen. We have a serious problem, she announced over the station's communication system. The primary power core is becoming unstable. All adult personnel, report to your emergency stations. All youth competitors, please remain in your quarters for safety. Yi-jin, Jai-ho, and Ta-won looked at each other. They were in the training area with Su-min and several other competitors when the announcement came. Something's wrong, Ta-won said, pulling out his tablet. The station's power readings are not normal. This is not a drill. The gravity shifted again, making everyone stumble. The lights flickered, and the temperature began to drop. In the corridors, they could hear the sound of running feet as adult staff rushed to their stations. We should return to our quarters, Su-min said, their crystal form dimming with worry. Those are our instructions. Jai-ho shook his head. Remember the school fire drill that turned real? Sometimes following standard procedures isn't the best choice. Yi Jin stepped forward. The power core is 3 levels below us. The adult staff will have to take the long way around because the main corridors are locked down in an emergency. But we know a faster way. How? Asked Rocky, fur standing on end with nervousness. The maintenance tunnels, Taiwan explained. We mapped them during our station orientation, just like we used to map out all the shortcuts at school. The station shook again, harder this time. The temperature dropped further, and frost began forming on the windows. Listen, Yi Jin said to the other competitors. On Earth, we play a game called Emergency Response. It teaches us how to help in a crisis. Right now, we need to help. Who wants to join us? Su Min's crystal form brightened. But we are not trained for emergencies. Yes, you are, Jai-Ho said firmly. The simulation trials taught you how to work together, how to solve problems, how to adapt. This is just another challenge. Yi Jin looked at each of them. We can divide into teams. Some of us can help evacuate the lower levels. Others can help maintain communication if the systems fail. The rest can gather emergency supplies. These are all things we've practiced in games. The other competitors looked uncertain, but then Su Min stepped forward. I will help. Your games have taught us well so far. One by one, the others agreed. Yi Jin quickly organized them into teams, just as she had done countless times on the playground. She assigned tasks based on each species' strengths, just like picking teams for sports. Remember, she said as they prepared to move out, this is like a big game of save the base. We work together, we stay calm, and we help others. That's what all our training has been about. As they moved through the station, their childhood games became real-life skills. Hide and seek became stealth movement through darkened corridors. Relay races became swift supply runs. Strategy games became tactical planning. In the control room, Administrator Du Rin watched in amazement as her screen showed the young competitors in action. The human team led the others with confidence born from years of practice. What had seemed like simple games now revealed their true value. The galaxy was about to learn another lesson about why humans started training young. Because in real emergencies, you fall back on what you've practiced most often. The power core room glowed with dangerous red light. Emergency barriers had sealed off the main entrance, but Yi Jin's team had reached it through the maintenance tunnels. Through the thick windows, they could see the core's containment field flickering. The cooling system is failing, Taiwan said, reading from his tablet. Temperature is rising too fast. Jai-Ho studied the control panel. This is like the time our school's computer lab overheated. Remember how we created a backup cooling system using fans and ice? Su Min's crystal form brightened. Our species can absorb heat. Perhaps we can help. Yi Jin nodded. Perfect. Su Min, gather your team near the core housing. Rocky, your fur is excellent insulation. Can your team help protect the sensitive equipment from temperature changes? Rocky stood straighter. Yes, we can do that. Just like how we protect our young during cold seasons. Good, Yi Jin continued. The team with 4 arms, you'll be fastest at operating multiple controls. Can you work the backup systems? The 4-armed team moved to the control panels with confidence. They had practiced coordination in the simulation trials, and now those skills had real purpose. Through the station's communication system, they could hear Administrator Du Rin coordinating with the adult staff. Many were still trying to reach the core room through the lockdown main corridors. We need to buy them time, Jai-Ho said. Everyone remember the relay race games. We'll work in shifts. When one team gets tired, another takes over, just like in sports. Taiwan set up his tablet to monitor everyone's condition. Green team, start cooling procedures. Blue team, stand ready to take their place. Red team, protect the equipment. Remember to rotate every 5 minutes, just like in practice. The young competitors moved with growing confidence. The games they had played, the simulations they had run, All became real tools for survival. Sumin's crystal team absorbed excess heat from the core. Raki's furry team protected delicate systems. The four-armed team operated controls with practiced precision. In the station's control room, Administrator Du Rin watched the young ones work. Her scales shifted between amazement and relief as she saw them coordinate their efforts perfectly. Major Kim, she called to He Jun, who had just arrived. Your team. They are teaching the others as they work. He Jun smiled proudly. On Earth, the best players are those who help others improve. It's a lesson we learned very young. Through the cameras, they could see Yi Jin moving between teams, encouraging and guiding just as she had done on countless playgrounds. Ji-ho shared quick tips about energy management, learned from years of competitive sports. Taiwan coordinated their efforts using skills from strategy games. The other young competitors responded well to this familiar approach. It wasn't like receiving orders from adults. It was like learning a new game from friends. They adapted quickly, worked together smoothly, and supported each other naturally. When the adult engineering team finally reached the core room, they found the situation already under control. The young competitors had stabilized the core temperature and prevented any serious damage to the station's systems. Administrator Du Rin's scales showed bright gold, a color of highest approval. The galaxy was learning yet another lesson about human training methods. They didn't just teach skills. They taught leadership, adaptation, and the ability to share knowledge effectively with others. The station's main meeting hall was filled to capacity. Administrator Du Rin stood at the podium, her scales shimmering with formal gold colors. Behind her sat all the young competitors, including the Earth team. The station's adult staff lined the walls, watching with interest. Today, we gather to discuss what we have learned. Administrator Du Rin began. What started as a competition has become a valuable lesson for our entire galactic community. She gestured to the young competitors. These individuals, whom some called too young for serious training, have proven themselves more than capable. They not only managed a serious crisis, but did so with remarkable skill and cooperation. Major He Jun Kim stepped forward when invited. What you saw was not just quick thinking or natural talent. It was the result of years of preparation, hidden within games and play. The administrator's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. Please explain this further, Major Kim. He Jun activated the room's display system, showing scenes from the crisis. Notice how the teams organized themselves. This formation came from playground games. Their communication methods came from sports training. Their problem-solving approach came from strategy games they've played since childhood. Sumin stood up, their crystal form glowing brightly. If I may speak. After receiving permission, they continued. I used to think human children were at a disadvantage, spending so much time playing. Now I understand that play was their greatest teacher. Yi Jin was asked to explain how she had organized the teams during the crisis. She stood and spoke clearly. I just did what I've done since I was small. In school, we often had to organize teams for games and sports. We learned how to know each person's strengths, how to help others improve, and how to work together. Ji-ho added his thoughts. The crisis didn't feel strange to us because we had practiced similar situations many times through games. When you play emergency response, or save the base hundreds of times as a child, real emergencies feel familiar. Administrator Du Rin turned to address the whole room. Our traditional approach has been to protect our young ones from challenges until they reach full maturity. The humans have shown us a different way. They protect their children while also preparing them. Taiwan raised his hand to speak. On Earth, we have a saying, practice makes perfect. But it's not about being perfect. It's about being ready. Every game we played, every sport we joined, every challenge we faced, they all prepared us for moments like this. The administrator's scales turned to a bright, decisive gold. I have made a decision. The Galactic Youth Competition will be reformed. Instead of testing only physical and tactical skills, We will include elements of leadership, teaching, and cooperative problem-solving, skills that humans learn naturally through their games. Rucky, whose fur had been standing proud since the crisis, spoke up. Could we learn some of these Earth games to teach our own young ones? That is exactly what we hope for, Hejun said with a smile. Cultural exchange goes both ways. We can learn from your traditions, and you can learn from ours. As the meeting continued, the galaxy was learning its final lesson about human training methods. They didn't just prepare individuals for challenges. They prepared entire communities to work together, grow together, and face any challenge as one. 1 year had passed since the crisis at the Galactic Competition Station. The station had been transformed. What was once simply a competition venue had become the Galactic Youth Development Center. Today marked its official opening. Administrator Du-Rin stood proudly at the entrance, her scales gleaming with bright, optimistic colors. Beside her stood Yi-Jin Park, now appointed as one of the center's primary instructors. The halls behind them were filled with young ones from various species, all eager to learn. I never imagined this when we first arrived, Yi-Jin said, watching a group of crystal-form younglings playing capture the flag with some furry younglings. The game had been modified to account for different species' abilities, making it fair and fun for all. Your team changed how we think about training, Du-Rin replied. Look there. She pointed to where Jaiho was teaching a group of 4 armed younglings how to solve complex mechanical puzzles through games. In another area, Taiwan was showing others how to create and solve strategy challenges. Su-min, who had become an instructor alongside the humans, approached them. Their crystal form glowed with excitement. The new training program is working better than expected. The younglings learn so quickly when they think they are just playing. The center had special areas designed for different types of learning. The main hall had been turned into a massive playground, with equipment adapted for various species. Training rooms had been redesigned to look like game spaces rather than formal classrooms. The parents were skeptical at first, Du-Rin admitted. But after seeing the results, many species are now adopting similar methods in their own worlds. They watched as a group of younglings worked together to complete an obstacle course. Instead of competing against each other, they were helping one another, sharing tips and techniques just as they had learned from their human instructors. Major Hejun Kim arrived for the opening ceremony. He smiled as he saw young ones from different species playing Earth games modify for their abilities. It's amazing how universal play can be, he said. The basics of learning through games work for every species. The center had also started a research program. Scientists studied how different species learned through play, developing new games and activities that worked best for each type of being. The results were shared throughout the galaxy, spreading the human approach to education. The best part, Yi-Jin said, is that they're not just learning physical skills. They're learning to work together, to think creatively, to solve problems, just like we did on Earth. A small crystal-form youngling ran up to Yi-Jin. Teacher, we figured out a new way to play hide and seek using our light-bending abilities. That's wonderful, Yi-Jin said. Would you like to teach it to the others? The youngling glowed with pride and rushed off to share the new game variation. This was another important lesson from Earth, encouraging young ones to create and share their own games and ideas. Administrator Du-Rin's scales shifted to show deep satisfaction. The galaxy learned more than why humans start training young, she said. We learned that preparation for life's challenges can be joyful. That teaching can be fun. That learning happens best when it doesn't feel like learning at all. As the opening ceremony began, the center buzzed with activity and laughter. Young ones from across the galaxy were playing, learning, and growing together. The human approach to training had not just changed how the galaxy thought about education. It had brought different species closer together through the universal language of play. The legacy of the human team would live on, not just in the center, but in countless young ones who would grow up better prepared for life's challenges, while never losing the joy of learning through play.